Hello, everybody. This will be a series of lectures of the philosophical book Beyond Good and Evil, a prelude to philosophy of the future by Friedrich Nietzsche. So, this is my first venture into any philosophical work, and I do not have any notions of philosophy, or I did not read any philosophers who have existed before Friedrich Nietzsche. So this will be a fresh start, and this will be my interpretation of it. This will be my interpretation, and I have not read this book before, so I am completely blank of the concepts which are there inside this book. And the purpose of this series is to delve into each and every chapter, and I will be making the lectures, or I'll be making the lectures of what I understood based on his philosophy. So, before going into this book, uh, some I have some premise. I know the premise of this book. So these are the things which I know before reading this book. So the basic premise is that Nietzsche says us that we have to look beyond the concepts of good and evil. So we tend to narrow our perspectives to base concepts, and we presuppose that good is always better than evil. But he advocates that there is something which is beyond good and evil. There is something which is beyond good and evil. So that is the premise. And the other thing which I know about this book is that this book is a prelude. It is like a teaser. It is a teaser or a trailer to his main work. Thus spoke Zarathustra. So it is just a prelude to his other book. Thus spoke Zarathustra. So I have not read this book at all. I will have to understand this book first in order to understand what this book says. So these are the two things which I know before I venture into the book and into its chapters. So let us begin with the book. So the book is divided into many parts, and each part contains a series of articles numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on and so forth. So the first part reads on the prejudices of philosophers, and in it, the first article. In this first article, uh, Friedrich Nietzsche says about the philosopher's quest to find the truth. See, in this first article, Friedrich Nietzsche describes the tendency of the philosophers to ask many questions. So, and these questions are directed to find the truth, to what the truth is. In order to find the truth, in order to get to the truth, we may ask many different questions. So, many strange questions have been asked by many philosophers in the past and also in the present, and it almost seems that it has scarcely begun. This quest for finding the truth may seem scarcely may seem only new to us. So he then asks, what makes us ask all these questions? Is there someone in us which makes us all these questions? And more importantly, why do we need to know all the truth? Why do we need to know the truth? If it even exists, why do we always tend to know the truth? What if, why don't we seek to know the untruth or ignorance. We tend to be in ignorance, we tend to be in untruth. There is very little known, and there is very much more to know. Then why can't we just be in this state of ignorance? What in us makes us or questions the reality? What makes us question the reality? So he asks this willingness to ask questions, and again he talks about this will in us to ask questions, and he also attributes value to this value or the cause of this will. So there is even more and more questions being asked in order to find the basic thing, that is to know the truth. So here is a very interesting argument which he makes, that he asks us who came first, or which came first, we or the truth itself. It is interesting because if we think that we are the first to come, and we are the first to think about the truth, so this abstract thing called the truth is perceived by our brain. So it is in our brain the truth originated. So we can clearly say that we came first and the truth came later. But what if the truth existed even before we have come into existence? So does it mean truth was the first to originate? If the truth has originated first, it is only that we have given birth to the truth. It is us in our brain have given birth to the concept of truth. So the truth did not exist before we have come to existence. So it is again the question of which came first, the chicken or the egg. So even for the chicken to exist, it has to come through the egg, and for the egg to exist, the chicken has to lay birth to the egg. So it is a very interesting argument here. So the first article uh, ends with this risk. So it is yet to know what risk he is talking about, because I could not derive what he is talking about from reading only the first article. So the second article. In the second article, he speaks about the opposites. Uh, before going to the second article, I would like to say about the basic nature of our understanding of certain concepts. For example, there is these concepts like good, evil, sour, sweet, love, and hate. Uh, if we want to know, if we want to understand what good is, what the concept of good is, we generally tend to understand. We generally tend to we sorry. We need to understand what evil is first. If we have to understand what good is, so we invariably have to understand what evil means. So both these things are interconnected. So in the same way, if we need to understand the concept of sourness, we first need to know what sweet is. So in order to so these both things are interconnected. The same thing with love and hate. They both cannot exist apart. So this is what Nietzsche is talking about. He is talking about the question of origin. These abstract concepts like good, love, hate, evil, where do they originate? Where do they exactly originate? So he talks about this presupposed thinking of ours, presupposed thinking of philosophers, metaphysicians, humans, of getting to understand or getting to understand the abstract concepts by this method of opposites. So I'll be talking about the method of opposites a little bit in the next thing. Just this presupposed thinking, like there is these two concepts, light and dark. So if anybody wants to understand what light is, he need to know what darkness is. So only then he is able to make any sense of what light means, what light actually means. So this is the presupposed thinking many do, and here Friedrich Nietzsche says that this is altogether wrong and foolish way of understanding things. His method, he tells that the origin of these concepts must be of a peculiar nature. The origin must be very peculiar in nature. It has to be something superior, something which is intransitory, which is permanent, which existed even before we have come into existence, and which will exist even after we go out of existence. So this question, this origin of the abstract concepts must have a superior quality in nature. So he then disregards this way of thinking of the metaphysician, and he terms this nature of valuation of the process as faith in the opposite values. So he phrases this as the faith in the opposite values. So he terms this method of deriving the origin of concepts from the opposites as the faith in the opposite values. The deriving the value from the opposites. So this is wrong. Friedrich Nietzsche says this deriving the value from the opposites is wrong. He quotes a renowned philosopher, Rene Descartes. So he quotes, all is to be doubted. So if all is to be doubted, then this method of valuation has also to be doubted. So this nature, this method of finding the origin of concepts, abstract concept, has also to be doubted. What if these valuations are just narrow frog perspectives? So as you might know, the frog inside the well has only a narrow, limited perception of the reality of the world which exists outside the well. So the philosophers and the metaphysicians are in a are looking at the things in a frog perspectives. So in the end of the second article, he contrasts three concepts which are true, truthful, selfless, to that of its counterparts, deception, selfishness, and lust. So we tend to give more value to these things. We tend to give more value to truthfulness and selflessness. So they are virtuous and revered. So they are high value. So what if the Nietzsche says, what if the opposites like deception, selfishness, or lust have more value than the virtuous or revered things? So why, he also explains why do these things have more value? As for example, as I have said, light and dark. See, we tend to think that light is has more value because it provides light from the darkness. We have experienced darkness, we fear the darkness. So this innate fear of the opposite things, of the negative, unvirtuous things, will attribute more value to the virtuous things. I will repeat. If there are two things, light and darkness, it is our fear of darkness, it is the fear of negative things which attribute more value to the positive things. So because of that, the opposites or the contrast or the negative things hold more value than the virtuous or reward things. So he says this might be, this may be, this method of thinking, he says it can happen, it is only a maybe. So he ends the second article by saying that this is a new kind of thought, this is a new kind of thinking, and these thinkers are new kind of philosophers. These new kind of philosophers ask dangerous maybe questions. So they ask dangerous maybe questions. Why this is dangerous? It is dangerous because this mode of thinking has never existed before Nietzsche. Uh, we have given more value to the virtuous things, but have not given more value to the unvirtuous things, and it can be dangerous. So Nietzsche says that this is a dangerous way of thinking.